Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is Thursday, August 3rd, and Drew Martin and I, of course, do this every Thursday. We take a look ahead to the upcoming series in MLB. Drew Martin this week had some kind of tricky situations, but the upcoming weekend has some series that I'm definitely looking at that I'm kind of liking here. What are some of the things that have happened in baseball recently? Well, obviously, the Cubs are starting to pick it up. The White Sox are becoming an auto fade. That's one series that we'll talk about right here. The Dodgers are rolling as ever. Of course, all the trade deadline roster moves are sort of settling in now. The Dodgers will get their first start from Yu Darvish. We'll see what the line is when that happens. And not sure. Okay. So let's get to the series that I'm finding interesting this week. The first one this weekend. The first one is Washington goes into the Cubs. Now, of course, the season-long numbers for both of these teams strongly favor Washington, right? Because Washington was a juggernaut in the beginning of the year. The Cubs were wildly overvalued and underachieving. Washington is plus 12% ROI on the road on the year, and the Cubs minus 13% ROI at home. But the Cubs obviously have been winning lately. Both teams were profitable in July, but Washington has actually been slumping over the past week, and the Cubs are just looking like they might be starting to pick it up. And then looking at the starting pitching matchups, I'm thinking also it might favor the Cubs every single game. But because of Washington's year-long numbers and of course the names in their lineup and their reputation as one of the elite teams, I don't think we're going to see huge favorite lines here from the Cubs.
Well, it looks like they're jumping out to minus 150 in tomorrow's. But
really,
right. I mean, considering Washington, has been in a little bit of a not doing as well as they could be. Minus 150 is a little bit.
That's surprising to me, actually. I was expecting a little because it's Rourke against Hendricks, and obviously, Rourke is a guy with nice overall numbers. He's been a little bit more vulnerable recently, and Hendricks came back from injury, and he's been good since returning. So, I think I would be leaning Cubs, but I was expecting the line to be a little bit lower than that. Then on Saturday, there's this guy Fede against Lackey, and he got pounded in his major league debut. He had minor league numbers that were not looking good either. So again, Lackey actually been a little bit better recently. Question is, how big of a favorite will the Cubs be tomorrow on Saturday? I was assuming that they wouldn't be that huge of a favorite, but if they're minus 150 with Hendricks against Rourke, I don't know. They might be minus 180 with Lackey against Fede. What do you think?
Yeah, probably. I mean, just the name recognition in general. Yeah, it could be flirting with minus 180.
All right. As always, last show we did, Drew Martin, I was saying that I was leaning Yankees over Detroit, but of course that's all dependent on the lines, and the Yankees were massive favorites in those games, just way too big of a favorite. I wound up taking Detroit in the Tanaka game, so maybe the Cubs will be inflated here. I was thinking that wouldn't be the case, but all right, here we go. Mr. Picks God saying, shout me out. All right, we just shouted you out, Mr. Picks God.
Mr. Picks God.
Yeah. Then on Sunday, Jackson against Leicester, and again, Edwin Jackson been pretty decent since joining the rotation, but he looks to me like that's been a little bit of a false good start from him. Leicester obviously can't have duds, but he looks better to me than Jackson. So I would be leaning Cubs again on Sunday, but maybe not. Maybe if the market is very quick to overvalue the Cubs as soon as they start stringing a couple of nice games together. Another team that's interesting is Detroit at Baltimore, and Detroit, of course, kind of an auto fade. Also recently, that type of team, they got rid of their closer. They got rid of JD Martinez. So they're a team that's been liquidating their stars. And Baltimore, of course, has been great at home this year, plus 19% ROI at home. Both teams have been winning recently. Again, Detroit just came off of that series against the Yankees where they were a massive underdog and just too big of an underdog there. But I'm thinking that this might be a series where we look towards Baltimore, at least in the Friday game with Verlander against Gausman, because I was assuming that just because Verlander's starting, it'd be a very competitive line. I was assuming maybe Baltimore minus 110. What's the line on that one? 115?
On tomorrow's?
Yeah.
We got Gausman commanding minus 121 at just bet.
Okay, that's about what I was expecting, and I think I would be liking Baltimore there. Gausman, of course, rounding to form. He is off a high pitch count, though, so that makes me nervous. But in general, I feel like Baltimore should have the edge in this series. What do you think? Do you have Detroit pegged as one of these teams that's liquidated their stars, and maybe we look to auto fade them?
Absolutely, and combine that with the fact Baltimore's bullpen is revamped a little bit here and pitching a lot better. Baltimore is absolutely bet on for me as early as tonight.
And then on Saturday, it is Wade Miley Day in this series, but Miley's last start was actually not that bad, and Fulmer has definitely been getting hit a bit more. And again, the question is just how big of an under. I'm assuming that Detroit will be a bit of a favorite, probably just a very small favorite. But if Baltimore is as big of an underdog, if Baltimore is a decent-sized home underdog, I would be willing to take them, even with Wade Miley starting. And then it's not clear who's going to be starting for Baltimore on Sunday. But Sanchez is starting for Detroit, and he continues to be impressive. Surprisingly impressive in his return to the starting rotation. But I'm thinking that at some point that has to fizzle out, and maybe we'll get another very, very small home favorite line with Baltimore that has some value. All right, Drew Martin, I got 3 other series that I'm going to highlight. Is there anything that you'd vaguely like to discuss with us?
Sure. We got Tampa Bay, Houston, Blake Snell, McHugh tonight. I don't know. What are you thinking about Blake Snell? I want to get your opinion.
Well, tonight's game, I actually did make a pick on that one. I took the under on that one at 9.5. I bet it at minus 118, and I gave it as a pick in the morning show today. It was minus 125 at that point. Snell, we talked about it extensively in the morning show. Obviously, another one of these starting pitchers with wicked stuff, but with control issues. And he went down to the minors, came back up, and since he came back up, his control issues have been a little bit better. Not fully fixed, far from it, but he hasn't yet had one of these starts where he's like, looking great when he's not having control issues, but giving up 6 walks and just not having, not having the control that you need to have success in the majors. So I took a shot with the under. That's also predicated on me being high on McHugh, at least for his next couple starts. We'll see how he turns out, but his last start was excellent. I expect that to continue, at least in the short term. So I took a shot with a relatively high total. And again, Houston's lineup is still excellent, but if you look at it without Correa and without Springer, it's a lot less fearsome. It's still one of the best lineups in the majors, but definitely not. But it's not one of those. Oh my God! Look, it's not one of those like hulking beast of lineups that you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I took an under with that one, and of course we're going to need Snell to continue to be able to have decent control. If he implodes, then yes, it'll be like a 9-run game for Houston, which still could go under. But we're going to need literally a shutout from McHugh and the bullpen. I think it's a decent play. That's an interesting series, because how do you really rate Houston with those 2 big hitters out? And this upcoming weekend they're at home against Toronto, and Toronto is Houston's lost 4 out of their last 5, and Toronto has some okay bats in their lineup, so we'll see what the lines are for that series. But I'm thinking that maybe Houston will be overvalued. They're now minus 5% ROI on the year at home, so they have been overvalued at home this year, and appearing to be more so as the season wears on with those 2 big bets out of the lineup. Then another series that I wanted to bring up is the next White Sox series. Again, I don't know if you remember, but a couple weeks ago, Drew Martin, I said the White Sox have got to be an auto fade right now, and they have been a terrible team. Recently, they had the worst ROI in baseball in July and August, but they're starting to be a massive underdog in their game. So the question is just how big of an underdog should they be in all their games, and how big of an underdog will they be on the road at Boston? Boston, still a team that gets a ton of respect, like the Cubs, and just tonight in the Porcello, who's starting for the White Sox? Miguel Gonzalez. We're seeing minus 240s. So we might see massive favorite lines for Boston, but it might be warranted, especially on Saturday. Shields against Pomerantz. Obviously, Pomerantz is a reliable starter, great starter. Shields is an auto fade list candidate right now as well. So even if Boston is minus 240 on Saturday, I think I might be on Boston on Saturday.
Some form or fashion, would you lay the 240 or the run line?
Well, obviously, I would be taking the run line there, and I'd be nervous about it. But I think that the starting pitching matchup would be so big, and the lineup advantage would be so big for Boston that I might take him there. And then on Sunday, big question mark. Obviously, it's Pelfrey against Pfister, and Pelfrey is a guy who is also having a lot of struggles. But Pfister came back. I thought Pfister was going to struggle in his first start back. He did not. And the question is, how huge of a favorite will Boston be on Sunday with Pfister starting, and how likely is Pfister to be able to repeat what he did in his first start?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I don't have the answer to that, but I will say on Friday's matchup, Carlos Rodon versus Rodriguez, is hovering a little bit north of $2 favorite for Boston. And with that pitching matchup, I kind of find that a little surprising.
Yeah, and especially since Rodon has been improving recently and Rodriguez has been struggling. And we see Rodon, in his starts, he'll have like one inning where he like has no control, gives up all of his 5 runs. And then all of his other innings, he's actually looking great, gets a lot of strikeouts. So, yeah, I don't know about that one, and especially with Rodriguez struggling, that is questionable. But I'm definitely leaning towards Boston on Saturday and Sunday, assuming that Fister will be able to roughly repeat what he did, at least for this start against a relatively weak lineup, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then the next series I want to bring up is the Dodgers against the Mets, and the Dodgers now. I don't know. There's been a momentous change in the ROI standings. The Dodgers officially took over Houston for the top position in the ROI standings in MLB. The Dodgers officially are now in first place. Houston second place.
And Houston, like you said, at home, it's just that they're not the same team. And considering they're almost up 20 units on the season, that they're down at home, that's very surprising.
Yes. And so the Dodgers are now number 1 overall in baseball, plus 24% ROI in July, and the Mets are bottom 5 overall on the year in terms of overall ROI standing. So we have clearly a supremely undervalued team going up against a supremely overvalued team. Mets are also minus 16% ROI at home. So it's just been ugliness all around for the Mets, and the Dodgers are streaking. And the question is just how big of a favorite will the Dodgers be? Of course, on Friday, we do have Yu Darvish's first start. He's going up against DeGrom, and that's not the spot where I want to be taking the Dodgers. Do you have an opening line for that one?
Yeah, it's interesting, to see the Dodgers almost at minus 125 at WagerWeb.
The Dodgers, yeah. That's what I would have sort of assumed, and I would not want the Dodgers there. DeGrom is off a loss, but still pitching great. His last start was not that bad. And Darvish's last start, he was tipping his pitches, is what they said.
Really?
Yes, that was that's the rumor and the explanation for his terrible start last out. And I'm assuming that that's not just complete bullshit. It could be that the Dodgers are like doing damage control. People are asking why they took Darvish after having getting crushed and struggling a little bit. But they were saying that he was tipping his pitches, and
was it confirmed by the team that was getting tipped off?
I don't know exactly. I read the research. I didn't look into how credible the reports were. Clearly, though, Darvish is having some issues, and clearly DeGrom is great. So I don't think I would want the Dodgers in that spot. But Saturday and Sunday, Hill against Lugo and Ryu against Matz. And Ryu's been pitching better. His last start was excellent. Matz, of course, very likely to get hit here. Question is just how big of a favorite will the Dodgers be? But if they're anything less than even minus 180, minus 160, I would take the Dodgers there. Ryu against Matz.
I'm not going against them for sure.
And then on Saturday, Hill continues to get excellent results until his blister issues pop up again. I think we can expect that to continue. Lugo should be very hittable. So again, I'm guessing Dodgers will be, minus 160, maybe as low as 140. Hard to say, but I'm thinking that the Dodgers will have value on Saturday and Sunday. What do you think, Drew Martin?
Yeah, I'm not looking to go against the Dodgers in any form or fashion. It's backing them or staying away.
Yeah. And then the last series that I want to bring up is another interesting one, Philly at Colorado. Now, Colorado series are just kind of unpredictable in general. A lot of teams go into Colorado and kind of inexplicably, slump out offensively and get blown out 16-4. And some teams go into Colorado and suddenly find new life offensively and start winning shootouts as a big road underdog at Colorado. We have Philly here going into Colorado, and Philly, of course, has been terrible at the Angels in their current series in general. They have been a terrible road team, minus 27% ROI on the road this year. Colorado plus 14% ROI at home. We have seen them recently get some big home wins. Question is, will Philly be able to pick it up offensively at Coors, or will they keep slumping at Coors? What do you think, Drew Martin?
I mean, they get a bye. They're not playing on today,
right?
And so for tomorrow's game, I think that.
Oh no, today they are playing today. Yeah, they're at the Angels. That's one of my big picks.
You're right.
Taking the Angels -1 and Philly team total under 4.
Okay, well, mistake on my part. So it is a little bit tougher of a travel spot for him. So that kind of digs into what I was just about to say. So. Yeah, I don't know. It could be a little bit tougher,
Yeah.
Flatter balls, flatter curve balls.
My sense is that Philly continues to struggle offensively, and that's just a total guess. I've had, these Colorado games are so unpredictable. In the first series against the Mets, it was Matz against who was the other? I think it was Hoffman, and both those guys are struggling. And I was like, man, the first 5 innings over is going to be a great bet there, but it wasn't. Matz was surprisingly. It's almost like in Colorado, in Coors, I expect pitchers who are terrible and auto fades to unexpectedly have a good start and the opposite to be true as well. Pitchers who are doing great to go into Coors and to struggle. So what do we expect here from Philly and Colorado? It's so uncertain, but I do think that that Philly will not get that much of a boost offensively. And I think Colorado will be a good bet. Freeland is starting on Friday. He knows how to have success at Coors. Velasquez did make a good start. He did make a start at Coors last year, and it was pretty good. And he is coming off a good start. But the Saturday and Sunday games, Pivetta against Gray, I think Pivetta can be very vulnerable. Pivetta can be very vulnerable on the road, and I think he's going to be particularly vulnerable here. And then Nola against Hoffman. Nola's been great. But again, sometimes, the trends make stark reversals, both from terrible starters and from great starters. And I would not at all be surprised if Nola goes into Coors on Sunday and just gets crushed.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at that either. And actually, Pete, I'd be looking to bet on Colorado in this series. Seeing the travel spots, seeing, Colorado staying at home. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know exactly which game I'm liking more, but I think it might be worth it just to bet on Colorado every game. And the line on Sunday might not be that big because Hoffman's been struggling. Nola's overall SENA numbers are great, but sometimes when starters like that go into Coors, it's just a completely different ball game. And they kind of take a mental break, and then they can go, and the reporters will ask them, well, what the hell happened? They're like, I don't know, man. It was just Coors. Let's move on. So, I think that Colorado probably more likely than not to be a good bet against Philly here. All right, that's it as far as a series that I wanted to highlight. Drew Martin, a couple of starting pitching assignments that are kind of interesting. On Friday, it is once again Bartolo Colon. When I make a pause like that, it's for a real good reason.
Low-hanging fruit?
I don't know. The thing is that Perez on the other side is starting for Texas, and he's really not that much better than Colon. I mean, Colon's last start was fadeable.
Yeah.
But it was close, and it was not as bad as, if you look at, Colon's last start was not any worse than Perez's overall, performance in the past couple months. So, yeah, it's a Friday game. What's the opening line for that one, for the Texas-Minnesota game, if it exists?
Texas-Minnesota looks like we got minus 110. Texas.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a tough one.
Across the board at SPR odds.
I'll tell you, I think Colon is once again fadeable, and maybe the best way to play this is just to take Texas on the first 5 innings team total over, which I think will just be 2.5. Colon's last start, team total over was 2.5. Cut it close. He had only given up 1 run in the first 4 innings, and then the bottom of the 5th, he did give up 2 to cash that one. But
nice.
Yes. So, if the Texas first 5 innings team total here is 2.5, I think it's another fate of Bartolo Colon.
But I'd go over on that.
But I wouldn't want to be taking Texas here with Perez. I might take the first 5 innings over on that one. And another starting pitching matchup that's interesting on Friday is Paxton against Hamill, and Paxton is back to his elite level. He is absolutely dealing, and Hamill's actually been okay. So the fact that he's been okay recently, I think it might serve to keep this line a little bit modest. KC, of course, has been a very profitable team. What's your line there? We do have an opening line there for Seattle and KC. What is it? What do we have there, Drew Martin?
We got minus 141 at WagerWeb.
Yeah, for Seattle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm thinking that Seattle might be a good play here, either on the -1 line or on the first 5 innings. So those are starting pitching matchups that have caught my eye for Friday, and we will be doing, our usual show. It will be direct from the IFBC conference. Drew Martin, you're a featured speaker in the IFBC.
Yeah, you're
right?
hosting it, right?
Yeah, I'm hosting it. I asked them to if I could have a slot as a featured speaker, and they were like, why don't you just host it? Just make it.
This will make you feel better. They split the time with me and Teddy Covers,
mm-hmm.
and I'm not supposed to talk more than 10 minutes.
Okay, so. All right, yeah, that's good. I was like,
us in a little box.
Yes, I was like, listen, I could give a talk on how to enjoy sports betting in spite of losing money month after month and year after year. Like, how is that? It is possible. And they were like, why don't you just host? Why don't you just host the event? And I was like, okay, fine. But maybe next year I'll give a talk on how to enjoy sports betting while losing money year in and year out. All right, so we will be doing that Friday, and you'll find out my picks. And then on Saturday, some starting pitching matchups that have caught my eye. 2 that are very interesting on Saturday, Drew Martin. One is Straley against Fulte, and Fulton-Avik struggling a bit recently.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to do some. I'm going to do some deeper research to try to find out what's up with that. Straley, I had a good read on him because he had a small hand injury that was a result of an at-bat, and he struggled in his next start, which I called. And his last start was a little bit better in general in this series. I'm thinking Miami might be a little bit undervalued. I'm thinking we'll see what kind of line we get here. But if Miami's a decent-sized underdog here, like plus 115 or 120, I might take Miami on Saturday.
Okay.
And then also on Saturday is Felix Hernandez's next start. He's going to be going up against Duffy, and Duffy's been pitching quite well. And I feel like even though Felix is regressing and everyone knows it, the market still gives him a little bit of respect.
Because of the name.
Yes, a little too much respect. And it's kind of like every time he has a start that's a little bit better, it serves to keep his lines a little bit, out of whack where they should be. And I'm thinking Casey will be a decent favorite. I'm thinking maybe minus 150 or something, but Casey might be a good bet on Saturday at home against Felix Hernandez.
Yeah, I'll probably be on that side as well.
And then Sunday, some other interesting starting pitching matchups. I know you're focusing on football right now, Drew Martin, but our old friend Jamison Tyone, 2 straight awful starts, and I'm talking about real bad Drew Martin.
Yeah. So maybe make it 3 in a row.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, and that's the question, because these weren't like 6-inning 5-run starts. These were like, I'm talking about 3-inning 8-run starts. You know what I'm saying? These are like Homer Bailey level bad. Like when Homer Bailey gets crushed, you got
to wear that on your ERA.
And the only issue is just that Clayton Richard on the other side has also been getting hit hard. The reports are that Tyone, his velocity is fine. I'm going to have to look into that, and that there are no health issues with him. But, I don't think this has anything to do with his, his cancer. I think it might just have to do with hitting a rookie, well, not a rookie wall, but, a youngster wall. A lot of times pitchers can wear down in August. So I might be looking at an over there, especially a day game. We'll check the lines. But on Sunday, I'll be looking maybe for an over in the San Diego-Pittsburgh game. Tyone, I think his start, I'm expecting him to be significantly better than his last 2 starts, which means that probably it'll be a pretty crappy start anyway,
Yeah, and I was actually going to say that the young pitcher thing in August, I mean, that could be something with Fulte as well.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. Especially, So I'm looking at maybe 5 innings, 4 runs from Tyone, and maybe a first 5 innings over in that one. Another interesting start, we were talking about Houston, right? That they might be a little bit overvalued with those 2 guys out, and it's going to be Stroman against Fiers. Fiers is definitely starting to struggle. Sunday might be a good spot to take Toronto, especially with Stroman. Stroman struggles a little bit as well with his control recently, but I think he's okay. I think Fiers' struggles are more real and more probably likely to be indicative of what to expect from him going forward. I think we're still going to get, a home favorite line from Houston, and Toronto might be a good bet on Sunday. And then in the Texas-Minnesota game on Sunday, Martinez against Barrios, and Barrios off a great start. One of those starts where he threw 7 great innings. Pitch count was like in the 70s. Got a hard luck loss, so he'll be bearing down once again. And Nick Martinez on the other side for Texas. Nick Martinez is a fadeable guy. How big of a favorite will Minnesota be here? Maybe 180. I don't know. Maybe 160. But I'm thinking that I'd look
that high, huh?
I don't know. Maybe not. I'm thinking that Minnesota might be a good bet on Sunday. Yeah. Minnesota Barrios against Texas, and we'll also be. I'm also going to be doing a morning show for the Saturday games from the IFBC conference. So I'll be giving some MLB picks on Saturday. I also did my my UFC Fight Night 114 preview with Andreas Hale. I got a lot of picks in that one. On Drew Martin, you just want some free UFC picks for this Saturday? Just right
this
up
Saturday.
Yeah. Coming right off the bat.
Is it a good card? It can't be as good as last one.
It's a good card for me from a betting perspective. Okay, here's what you're going to do, Drew Martin. You're going to hit Rashad Evans and Alvey to go the distance at minus 155.
Okay.
And you're going to hit the over 2.5 in the main event, which is it's slipping my mind. Oh, Pettis, right? Pettis against Moreno, over 2.5 rounds, minus 160. Okay. Those are my 2 top plays.
Lay the wood with those 2, huh?
Yes. It's not such huge wood, and I like both of those. And I also like a bunch of other secondary picks as well, which covered with Andreas Hale on the call. So look for that. And that just about does it. Any final words?
Yeah, can we give some love to the chat box? Just real quick?
Sure.
Jay Packa saying, Pete, how many dudes in Costa Rica wear blazers?
How many dudes in Costa Rica rock blazers? I don't know, but none can really. They wear them in a kind of a cheesy way. None can really wear them in. You're going to see how I look at the IFBC. I'm going to wear my top outfit for the IFBC. I'm going to look blazing. I'm going to look as good as I can possibly look for the IFBC, and you'll all be able to see it. So
okay.
You'll be able to see it. Yeah. All right. So
Jay Pack is saying he also blamed Trump and his orange private parts.
Did I get banned for Trump's? What does he mean? He got banned? No, you're not getting banned. We're seeing it. We're reading your comments here.
Yeah,
interesting.
fine.
Always interesting comments from Tom Marino. Where he says Philadelphia talked after the game about adjustments they made to hit him the third time they saw him. I think teams are seeing and adjusting to him. Who's he talking about here?
Who's him?
Yeah.
Omar, quick. Who's him?
Philadelphia talked after the game about adjustments they made to hit him the third time they saw. Who's him? Yeah. Who's him?
Well, I guess we can just use some research.
Who do we talk about that Tom Marino could possibly be referring to? I don't
Chat
know.
box.
Yes. All right. Well, Fulton Avich. There you go. Okay, Fulton Avich. Yes, he is the kind of guy who can have adjustments made because he has so much stuff, and it can be very confusing for a team seeing him for the first and second time. So I would expect maybe Miami to have a decent start against Fulton Avich. I'm going to look into that a little bit further, but we shall see what that line is. I'll be covering that in the special Saturday edition of the morning show from the IFBC on Saturday. All right, Drew Martin, the MLB season is chugging along, the dog days of August, and we will be back on Monday, I believe, right, to cover the upcoming week series.